take all your things, you go and run and hide.
Okay.
All right, so what are we talking about? Social ROI.
Social ROI.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd love to start with an example. Just start with a case study because I think a lot of people want to see exactly what you're, because ROI is a big topic these last 3 days.
It is a huge topic. So I'm Erica Brooks, for everybody that I didn't meet last night at the cocktail hour where I was at Social Butterfly. And I run go-to-market strategy for Oracle Social Cloud, but by background, I am a practitioner. I'm a marketer, so I run a number of large marketing departments. And it's been really fascinating to me over the course of the last, 4, 5, 6 years to see how social's really evolved. So Marriott Rewards, obviously, what do they care about? They want people in their rewards program. It's really interesting in talking to this customer because they're super motivated to create an environment socially that motivates the traveler, right? It's about a conversation with the community and the community talking to each other about wanderlust, adventures, just whatever's exciting to them in the area of travel. So about 2 years ago, they were hearing in their social communities just fanaticism over the beds, the Marriott beds. People love these beds, apparently. I'm a Marriott Rewards customer, but I actually like my home bed. But people love these beds. And so they decided to run a contest. And they've run it 2 years in a row now through their social channels. And it's been really interesting watching what's happened with it. So it's 30 beds to 30 customers over 30 days. And it has basically knocked the socks off of every point of measurement that they had ever hoped for. And it's only gotten better. But what's interesting is they had 3 things that mattered to them. One, obviously, enrollment in the rewards program. The second was, hey, can we support our partners? So shopmarriott.com and the credit card, the Marriott credit card. And then lastly was, we'd like to continue to build this community, right? We want to continue to foster the community. And across every single one of those measures, share of voice versus their competition, enrollment actually in the program, and then of course traffic over to those 2 sites I just mentioned has completely knocked the socks off of.
So what is it? So is it that brands should be viewing the metrics differently? Is it they're looking at the wrong metrics? Because the title of this is really, you're missing the point. What are they missing?
So what's interesting talking to them is that they have really understood that the goal isn't really about likes and it's not about shares at a very base level. What they have focused on is, how does this connect back to my business? So if I spend all this time trying to prove social as a standalone mechanism for return on investment to Marriott Rewards, I'm not going to do very well. But if I spend time thinking about how do I connect this back to the business, then there's success built in that. So they spend a lot of time on the inside of the organization saying, okay, if we're going to have a seat at the table proving social and digital, what matters? What do I have to have in place in order to be successful?
What was hard about them figuring that out internally? I mean, I'm sure it was really difficult to kind of make sure all the stakeholders are listening to what's going on.
Well, people are difficult, and everybody, there's a lot of different departments. So Marriott's massive, right? And rewards is just one area of business. There's properties, there's the shopmarriott.com, there's the partnership on the credit card side. So absolutely, alignment is critical path. The second thing that made this really difficult, of course, is underlying what's telling me about my customer. What systems do I have in place that tell me something about my customer? And of course, there's a lot of legacy systems, there's new systems. Each and every day, somebody wants to go put a new platform in place because it solves a specific issue. So the combination of those 2 things made it really difficult.
Did they have to convince a lot of leadership? Was there just like a bullish, I don't want to do it, or bullheaded?
Well, I think like a lot of us, they started, yes. The short answer is yes. But I think they started like a lot of us have started, which is they built a community and then they had a pretty sizable community. There's a lot of people who get really excited when they say 4 or 5 million fans on Facebook. And then all of a sudden, instead of saying, okay, I've got a whole new channel I can spam to, because we are prone to sort of getting the pressure points around, have we gotten enough out of that? Let me just keep messaging to them. They had to get pretty strategic internally talking about how can we maximize the listening value of, hey, people love our beds, into something that drove business value.
But it's obviously a logistical problem. You've got to have the tools to do it.
That's right.
It's a cultural problem.
It is.
There's an operational
That's
issue.
Yeah.
What did they do right? Or even if there's other examples, I mean, what have you found that people have done right when it comes to navigating those?
Well, I think in their case, and I think this is interesting, I was just at the Forrester Marketing Forum in New York last week, and one of the things that they talked about is that there's this widening gap between those of us who are social practitioners and the managers, right? The people who are managing, whether you're brand or you're digital and social. in terms of happiness about what they're getting out of social. And basically, it was something like, if I'm the manager of the Marriott Rewards page, I think I'm killing it, like 58% happiness with what I'm doing on Facebook. But if I'm the manager of that person, so in our case, Michelle LaPierre is the customer, she's only got about 25% satisfaction coming out of the management and the output from the Facebook page. And the single biggest reason, hypothesis, is performance. What's the performance? And so what I think they did right was they focused on performance. They focused on finding the connect points between their Facebook site, the mechanism they were using to communicate across that, the analytics and the data that came out of that with all of their other systems. And they said, like, look, it's hard. We spoke with them at South by Southwest. It was really, really hard, but it was worth it to invest time in the back end.
Yeah, absolutely. What is kind of like the advice in general that you could give across different brands, not specific Marriott or another one of the case studies?
So it's really hard, right? Because you could be direct to the consumer, you could be direct to consumer via commerce, you could be retail driven, you could be dependent on dealers, you could be B2B. So we all have sort of our own different challenges in terms of what is the mechanism for finally defining success, right? What's performance look like? But I think a couple of things. I mean, we marketers have definitely been earning their right at the seat at the table. And finally, we're not just sort of being recognized as people who throw really good parties, which we do, like we did last night. But we can really drive business value. But that comes back to having a conversation at the C level that says, hey, I understand what the business drivers are. I'm not in it just for the awards about my campaign specifically. I can have a conversation with you, the CIO, you, the head of revenue, you, the CEO, and the CFO, about how do we untap revenue potential. And in that, by the way, our reward is we get to tap into more budget dollars.
But there are, I mean, I've definitely spoken to, especially on the retail side, brands out there that say, I'm not looking for social to drive direct sales. Like, I just use social as like an awareness driver. One big example of this is Everlane, who is it's beautiful social media.
Right.
And they're like, no, it's fine. We can't, we're not going to sell t-shirts on this, and that's okay.
That's okay.
Is
That's
that
totally
is that
okay.
something that you're...
That's certainly okay. And we have a lot of customers who are very focused on the brand side of it.
Okay.
And so, yeah, that's totally okay. But that's the conversation that you have, right? And say, this is where we get the reward as an organization. Because there's definitely going to be some relationship, and it's probably not just correlative, between the brand building and the end results on the business side.
I know you have another example of this working really well.
Oh, yeah. I apparently had other slides, but we'll just go to this. So Polaris, I don't know how many people maybe did some ATVing yesterday. Anybody? No. I know
Everyone was just lying by the pool.
Well, I mean, you should have played 18 holes of golf. It was awesome out there, even for a hack like me. So Polaris, snowmobiles, ATVs, motorcycles. They do not own distribution of their product. They are dependent on partnerships for distribution. And so their product and their product development is really critical path. And really up until in the last few years, marketing has really not been seen as a cornerstone for input to that product development process. They have 3 or 4 amazing, great stories about how, through the process of using social technology, they've been able, and this is a good example back to brand, they've been able to see what are drivers on the consumer side faster than product development. They have slower roll processes for getting input on the consumer side. And so one of the things that was coming up specifically was the color pink, which is why I wore these shoes today. So they were hearing constantly over their social channels this resonation around, we'd love to have pink as an option. Pink for my snowmobile.
I agree.
Pink for my ATV, right? Pink involved in terms of the gear that they sell, shirts and stuff like that, right? Who doesn't like that? So, but product development wasn't totally sold on that idea. So they presented it again, and then but there's a 6-week period that they call snow check before people start buying snowmobiles. And they finally convinced them, well, let's make it a custom color option because we're already doing custom color options anyway, so let's make it a custom color option. And it was off the charts, highly selected.
Can we go back for a second? Because they were telling these people that, hey, people want the pink, and yet they were saying, no, we're not. Why wasn't product convinced? I mean,
well, because product development had their own inputs, right? They had their own.
They just didn't think
they had their own inputs, but they said, okay, fine, we'll do this pink. We'll put it in the custom. Selected like crazy. People loved it. So from there, all of a sudden, there was a different conversation happening between marketing and product development, right? great, you guys helped us. We sold a whole bunch more product. That's what we're measured on. So they then fast forward it to, what about a pink ribbon wrap? We've sold a bunch of snowmobiles already. There's potential to sell something that goes with the snowmobiles. So they ran a contest for what's called a pink ribbon wrap, which you can see actually up on the slides here, that goes around the front of the actual
really
snowmobile.
cute.
It's really cute. And, and they realized a couple things. A, they could sell product. B, they could run a marketing campaign. And C, they could up their game and do something that was charity driven. So they partnered with the Pink Ribbon Riders, which supports breast cancer. And they ran a contest through their social channels to help have people say, what should that pink ribbon wrap look like? They then let the community select the winner of the pink ribbon wrap. Mm-hmm. They partnered with the Pink Ribbon Riders to do a lot of activation locally. And we can't share the specifics of what their sales were, but again, off the charts.
But they were doing this for existing customers? Was there
existing
part of that?
And new,
Okay.
right? So it was an opportunity to sort of try to push new snowmobile through, as well as drive some revenue out of existing
So
customer
they were able
base.
to grow it as well.
Exactly.
How does this kind of, how do you see it, just someone who observes this, kind of working in the future, this like business enabling?
Oh, future, good.
Yeah.
An easy question. So I think a couple things. We spend a lot of time talking about how does social connect to commerce, how does social connect to service, how does social connect to sales, how does social connect to marketing and the marketing problem as a whole. And so we think about social as no longer being stovepipe so much as it is thinking about it from an integration point. Mm-hmm. And that's meaning internally as a workflow process. It means from a tools process. It also means from like, what's your data set? You know, what's your underlying data that's going to help you have a very broader view of your customer and your customer needs and what success looks like.
Cool. We have about a couple minutes for questions. If there are any.
That's great.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Erica.
Shereen,
This
it was
was
great to see
great.
you. Thank you, guys.
So next.